All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started. If you can find a seat. Still going through the book of Ephesians. Not still, we just started, really. So hopefully you're not tired of it yet, or we have a problem. Um, really enjoyed studying this week, and excited to share with you this portion of the text. It's all wonderful, beautiful. Hopefully, when we're studying through a text, when we're studying through a book, hopefully the ideal is that you're reading through it at the same time. And I know a lot of you read a lot of different passages and devotional readings and things like that. It really helped, I found, which I haven't not been a minister for a very long time, but I found whenever I'm listening to a series and I'm reading along with that, or reading, we just got through Exodus, reading Exodus, it's going to help bless you as we learn about these texts together in a community. So hopefully you've read through Ephesians recently. If not, I would encourage you to do so. We're still in chapter 1. We've only made it through the first 14 verses. Today we're going to look at 15 through 23 and kind of finish out chapter 1 there. So if you remember last week, and if you weren't here, you don't remember last week. So just for those who were here, I want to kind of put a period on one of the last things in the opening paragraph that will perfectly transition us to read and take in the second paragraph of Ephesians chapter 1. So if you remember, why does it always do that? Is Alex in here? Oh, thank you, Alex. You're the best. There we go. So if you remember in the first opening paragraph, if you will, verses 3 through 13 there, or 14, are one run-on sentence in the Greek, and then it happens again and again. Paul's a huge fan of run-on sentences. But I've kind of highlighted here 11 times he hits this phrase, in him, or through him, or in the beloved. Like he's emphasizing the point that we talked about of you're chosen, you're predestined, you're elected in him. It's not that you are, but you are because of him, right? He's the one that's chosen. He's the one that's predestined. He's the one elected. And so it's in him, through him, in Christ. It's this overwhelming language of the Messiah. He's the one. Scholars call this, by all kinds of technical language, incorporative messiahship. It's corporate election in the Messiah, but the phrase itself just kind of tells the story. In Christ, in him, you are among the chosen and among the beloved, because he is the chosen and the beloved for Israel and for the nations. Right? You remember this was what the entire class was about last week. So you remember this drawing. This is kind of the traditional, the personal view that when we read Ephesians, especially chapter 1, it's an illustration of one of the primary ways that Protestants are taught to view the gospel. And I'll just talk about this briefly, but we have God, and then we read the chosen or the elect, and we think me. Some of us think we, and then maybe me or we, you're either headed to the bad place, hell, or you're headed to the good place, heaven. And this is how we view the storyline of the gospel. And yet, that's not the story that Paul is drawing. Here's the story that Paul is drawing. So it's this idea that humanity's story and Israel's story, they come together in him. So God chose Abraham out of humanity because humanity was his chosen people, but they chose to rebel against him. So he chooses one to be a blessing to many nations. And then you see the story fulfilled through the family of Israel, and then Israel fails time and time again. And then there's a king who's coming from the line of David. He will be the one who's a blessing to all the nations. He's predestined, he's chosen, he's elected. And so King Jesus, with wide expansive arms here, and we've got the covenant family of Israel here, we've got the nations here. And Jesus, Messiah, is the blessed one. He is the chosen one. He is the beloved one. He's actually, Paul calls him the beloved one in Ephesians 1, chapter 1. He is the one who existed before all things, that in him a new humanity should come into being. And listen, this is important. According to Paul, for those who find themselves in him, Jesus' identity becomes my identity. You with me? If you find yourself in him, his identity becomes my identity. That's what it means to be in him. If he's the chosen elect one, I'm not. But since he is, I am. If I'm in him. If I hear him, if I trust him, that's what faith is. It's trusting, Romans 10:17. God clothes me with him through baptism, Galatians 3:27, and I become in him. Jesus was the one who was saved from evil and death in his death and resurrection. He was a victim of sin and death, and he was vindicated through the resurrection out into new life and new creation. And for those who trust in him and are clothed in him, his identity becomes my identity. His death becomes my death. His resurrection becomes my resurrection. And as we're going to see, Paul explained here, this is amazing. His exaltation becomes my exaltation, right? And so his exaltation to rule over heaven and earth becomes my own elevation to my true calling and destiny as a human image of God. You see how God's putting this story all back together from Genesis 1 till now? He wants to put it all back together. This is what he created you for. Humanity, this is what he created us for, but we chose differently. Well, God, through his great wisdom and before the foundation of the world, chose to bring you back through him. So this is what Paul's doing here, and it's unifying between the nations. There's no status differential between Israel and non-Israel in Messiah. He's both all at once. So now, armed with that basic concept, I want to dive into the next paragraph. And I say paragraph because remember, in the Greek, it's one sentence and then it's one sentence. And so let's dive into the next big sentence here of Ephesians. So again, the yous, when you read you, it's y'all. And I just changed it to help us out. I changed the Bible, but in a good way, not like Thomas Jefferson way, like a helpful way, okay? I've changed some words to make it where we read it correctly, not where we read it plural, not singular. I find it helpful. Hopefully you will too. And once again, Paul has graced us with a long run-on sentence, and I've come to love these. They are what they are. He begins. Oh, that's small. Is it big enough for y'all? Yeah, it looks so small to me, and I forget it's way bigger behind me. For this reason. Well, for what reason? Well, the whole thing, the whole first run-on sentence, 3 to 14. For that reason, as I've heard of y'all's faith in the Lord Jesus and the love which is toward all of the holy ones, I have not stopped giving thanks, making remembrance on y'all's behalf in my prayers, in order that the God of our Lord Jesus Messiah, the Father of glory, would give to y'all a spirit of wisdom and apocalypse. There's our word again, revelation. Remember, this is the key concept of Ephesians. Paul keeps reusing this word. Apocalypse is for something to be uncovered, something new. It's an aha moment. This is what Paul's talking about. There's a mystery here. It's been revealed to me. I'm revealing it to you. And that apocalypse, that revelation, is that you, Gentiles, have now been grafted, joined. You are a part of the family of Israel in him. You're chosen in him. And he's praying here. And so he wants them to continue to explore this revelation. What does this mean for me? What's this mean for the world? He says, in order to know him, the eyes of y'all's heart, so y'all plural, heart singular, the eyes of y'all's heart having been illuminated so that y'all would know what is the hope of his calling, what is the richness of the glory of his inheritance among the holy ones, and what is the surpassing greatness of his power towards y'all who trust. It's in accordance that power, it's in accordance that power, and the in accordance there is with the working of the power of his might, which he worked in the Messiah, having raised him from among the dead ones, and having seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realm above all rule and authority and power and dominion and every name that is named, not only in this age, but also in the coming age. And he placed all things under his feet and gave him headship over all things in the church, which is his body, the fullness of the one who fills all in all. That's beautiful language, is it not? And it's just abundantly clear. It's not at all, is it? No. Yeah. I was waiting for people to be like, yeah. I was going to be like, then explain it to us, please. No, it's Paul. I mean, it's Pauline writing. Like, it's this heavy, religious, beautiful words. I mean, again, you just have the greatest hits of Christian vocabulary right here. But it's absolutely beautiful. But what is Paul doing here? Well, he's essentially giving us a prayer report, isn't he? He's telling us what he prays for. This is his prayer. He's telling us what he prays for a church on any given day. And that itself is interesting to me. If you've ever wondered what to pray for a group of people who follow Jesus, well, here's what Paul would pray. And maybe it should inform how we pray for each other as church communities as well. So he begins with talking about a report that he hears. He hears a report of faith, a report of trust in Jesus, which is demonstrated by people loving their neighbors as themselves. Do you see that? He's like, I've heard that you're living this way. I've heard that you're loving people as yourself. So they're doing it. They're living out the greatest commands. They're living into their true original image, their human image. And so he keeps praying. And he prays that God would give a spirit of wisdom and revelation. Again, that's the interesting word within Ephesians. It goes back to our first class. This apocalypse phrase that Paul keeps using. And Paul frames it in terms of revelation. What he prays for is that people are constantly discovering new depth of what it means to live out this story. Paul prays that people, and his prayer would be the same for us, that we keep finding out layers and layers of what it means to live into this new reality. That you, a Gentile, once excluded, once far away from God, have been brought near by the blood of Christ and been made new, a part of a new family. And then he's going to give us a list here. He prays that you're constantly discovering new depths of what it means to live by the story and discover its meaning. And so, as you do, it's kind of like cave spelunking. There's this place in Lawton, Oklahoma. We used to call it the Rock Rooms. And you hike up the mountain out there. I don't remember the name of the mountain out there. Mountain, it's a hill, a lot like here. But there's a hole in one of the rocks, and it's like you have to know about it or you wouldn't know about it, right? If you go into this hole, which I would never do that now, by the way. I'm claustrophobic as all get out. But I did it before when I was young and dumb. You go into this hole, you can drop down into these caverns and squeeze through these tight places. And what's cool, it's like cave spelunking. You enter a new chamber, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's another crevice. I wonder if we can go lower. And you realize you're in there, and there's bats, and it's really cold and feels awesome. You realize, oh, I can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you come out at the end. What Paul's saying is this mystery, this revelation, this apocalypse, I pray that you meditate on it and you just continually find new depths. You will never reach the end of the beauty and the exploration of God and God's plan for you, God's life for you. It's like you get to a new cavern and it's like, oh, there's 10 more down there. It's a discovery. It's a journey of discovery and growth. And Paul uses illumination is how he frames it. Hopefully, I hope that in your discipleship to Christ, in your walk with Christ, you felt this way. Have you? I hope that the longer you follow Christ, the more depth you find. The journey that you're on never ends. And if you feel as though you've arrived and that you have all of the answers and that there's nothing left to explore, that you've made it, guess what? You've taken a wrong turn apparently. You've come to a dead-end cave and you can't see the depth for which God is inviting you to go. And so wisdom and apocalypse, he's praying that you would keep having the apocalypse. It's not just like this one-time thing. And don't let the word apocalypse trip you up. That's just what he says in the Greek, because we think of apocalypse and we think of end world, revelation, fire and brimstone. Don't think that way. That's not what this word is talking about. This is something new to you, right? I'm praying that you find that you're constantly on a path of discovery to see the beauty of what God is up to in the world and what he's doing through Christ. So you apparently need to keep asking for new wisdom and new insight into the apocalypse so that a few things would dawn on you. And do you see, he gives us a nice little list here. We don't even have to wonder. He gives us a list here. Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, when you're talking about apocalyptic literature, basically, the reason it exists is to encourage you.
Right.
I think that's kind of what's going on.
Absolutely. It should be an encouragement, not a discouragement, not a death and doom and gloom kind of deal. But that's what Hollywood's turned it into, and that's what we've turned it into, in a sense. So he gives us a list here of what you should be continually searching and revealing and all these things. So they would know what is the hope of his calling. Now that was something he talked about back in verse 11. In the Messiah, we also were called. He talks about Israel, and then he talks about when y'all heard, you Gentiles, y'all were brought into the called ones. So God's calling is a group. He's calling people into something new. It's a hope. I want you to never stop meditating on what that hope is. You've been adopted into the family of God. You sit at the table of God as a child of the Father. Never stop meditating on the beauty and the grandeur of what that calling and that hope is. He says, I want you to never stop meditating on what is the richness of the glory of his inheritance among the holy ones. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Richness. Are you tracking with all of this abundance, overabundance imagery and language? Yeah, like Paul wants to show you, there's just so much here. It's like richness. So God's depicted as like having like the ultimate bank with all the gold in the world, if you wanted to think about it that way. And what was the duck on the cartoons that used to jump off the diving board into his... Was it Scrooge McDuck? Okay, yeah, kept thinking. Their uncle, right? He was their uncle or their granddad? Okay, I can't remember the old cartoons. Yeah, so think of it this way, like it's this never-ending depth of just richness. It's just there. But unlike Scrooge McDuck, God is just wanting you to explore it, wanting you to take it, wanting you to dive in and just sit with it. I want you to never stop meditating on what is the richness of the glory of his inheritance among the holy ones. So it's like he has this never-ending reservoir of abundance to be giving out. And so, of course, it's something that we should constantly be discovering because it's an eternal source of new wisdom and knowledge and understanding, the glory of God's inheritance among the holy ones. Now, I don't know about you. This is just what I think. I think we will spend eternity exploring the beauty and the richness of God. I don't think we stand before God and we just suddenly know everything there is to know about God. I think we spend eternity exploring the beauty and the richness of God's grace, and this is a part of what it will be to be fully in his presence. And just to stare at him, to ponder, to sit in awe, to work with him, to walk with him, to talk with him, to eat with him, just exploring him in all the ways that he created us to explore him for all eternity, because his richness is eternal. It lasts and lasts and lasts. And so this language that Paul is using is just over the top, abundance, abundance, abundance. Inheritance, there's a word we need to think about. So again, you're in the coffee shop. If you weren't here last week, this isn't going to make sense. You're in the coffee shop. You hear people next to you talking. They use the word inheritance. What you need to do is figure out what they're talking about. What are they wearing? Where are they going? What are they trying to say in the context of who they are? Well, what is inheritance within the biblical narrative? What's he talking about? Yep. If he's talking to the Israelites going through Exodus, what are they about to inherit? The promised land. That's right. This is the biblical narrative that Paul has in mind. The promised land it's called the inheritance. So Israel moving out of slavery in Egypt, where they're dying and enslaved under the powers, coming through the wilderness on their way with hope set on the promised land. Paul has fully adopted this storyline, but he's mapped it onto a new Exodus, which he's going to talk about in chapter 2, out of a new slavery to the cosmic power alliance and onto the new promised land, which he's going to call in the letter to the Galatians and in Romans, new creation, a restored cosmos, new heaven, new earth. So the hope of his calling, that's one. The richness of the glory of his inheritance among the holy ones, that's two. This is what you never stop exploring. And three, the surpassing greatness of his power. Do you feel the power language on these pages? Like he wants you to feel what you've been given and what is now yours in him, in Christ. And it's introduced right here for the very first time. So there's the power of God to bring about a new humanity, to bring about a new creation that is the future inheritance, and his power to take dead, enslaved people and recreate them as these new kind of humans. It's dry bones in a wasteland, and it's God breathing life into those bones and people rising, right? That's what's happening here. That's what God is doing. The very Spirit of God, through the power of Christ, the chosen one, is bringing about all kinds of new creation, new people. Well, what kind of power are we talking about here? Well, we let the story explain it. We let Paul explain what he's talking about. He's talking about this redemptive new creation power of God, and he goes right here to the resurrection. The resurrection, and he just really focuses on it. And for him, for Paul, the resurrection, there's two dimensions that he wants to point out. One is that he raised him from among the dead ones. So the phrase raised from the dead in our English translations, the dead is a plural noun. So dead ones, dead people, and to me it just brings about a new light if you read it that way. Maybe it's not, it's your choice, whatever. I'm just going off of what's in my head right here, okay? So, but for Paul, Jesus' resurrection is closely connected to his enthronement. Do you see that in the way he's lining this up? An enthronement seated him, and then he just like riffs off of that enthronement like nobody's business here. He's just going to hit it real hard. He's waxing poetic. Isn't that the right phrase? Waxing poetic. Yes, okay. That's kind of what he's doing here. Where is he enthroned? In the heavenly realm. So this is the apocalyptic framework coming into being here. In the heavenly realm, above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that is named. Okay, so he's enthroned in the heavenly realm, but is his rule only over the heavenly realm? No, where is his rule and reign? Everywhere. Thank you for speaking up, James. I just hear mumbles. Yeah, like I think you said it. Everywhere, not just in the heavenly realm, but everywhere. It's all over all forms of power and authority. So notice he goes like this spatial language here. He's enthroned in heaven above all, but then he goes to like time language, not only in this age, but also in the coming age. So now he's going to enter a different kind of conversation. This is the way that Paul views the biblical narrative. And this is what he wants everyone to understand. This is the apocalypse. This is what's happening. And so he's revealing his hand here, and we're getting a bit more of how Paul thinks about the whole story of history and the whole story of the Bible here. So we're going to jump into this, but before we do that, any thoughts or comments up to this point? Any questions yet, Jay?
I just think it's important to point out that God raises Jesus from the dead. It's the fact that Jesus submits to death and he trusts that God will raise him.
Right.
And a lot of times we think that Jesus raised himself, but it's actually the Father who raised him.
Yeah. So yeah, the power, and we're told the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is the power that raises you and makes you a new creation. Right? This is the same power that spoke the world into existence. It's the same power that is making all of this possible. And what's amazing, just side note here to Jay's point, and we'll get into that. We're going to study the Gospel of John soon. After, once fall kind of really clicks in, we're going to go through the Gospel of John. We'll be in there for like a year, maybe longer. That sounds horrible to you. That sounds amazing to me. So in the Exodus story, just think about this, because studying John and reading some things, I already knew this, but it's one of those things that just blows your mind again. Right? When John opens his gospel, what's he say? Anybody know off the top of your head? In the beginning, which takes you where? In the beginning. And then what's he say about Jesus? You can paraphrase. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And what happened to that Word? It took on flesh. And the word that he uses is it tabernacled. So there's all this stuff that John's doing. But anyways, quick version of it. He's taking you back to creation to think of the Spirit hovering above the chaos. And then God speaking into existence new creation. And then you have the Spirit of God tabernacling in the tabernacle in the Exodus. The very presence of God, the power of God that Jay's talking about, is now with people once again, with humanity once again. The language that John uses that he wants you to see is the very presence of God, the very power of God was incarnate, was mobile in the person of Jesus. But it doesn't stop there. Jesus tells his disciples, I'm leaving and I'm sending somebody better than me. And you're going to do all the things that you've seen me do. Even greater things, he says. So get this and just feel this, okay? You are now the tabernacle of the power of God. Y'all are now the tabernacle of the power of God. We'll talk about this extensively as we get into the Gospel of John. God's power is now working through y'all, and you individually, and now rivers of living water are flowing from you. Y'all. Like this is the apocalypse. This is the revelation. Y'all are now a chosen people to be the very vessel of God's power to the world. Like, I already knew that, and I think you already knew that, but we forget, don't we? Did they know that? He's telling them that. They didn't know that right now, I guarantee you. But they will know that. So we're going to talk a lot about that, but let's get back to this, okay? Sorry, side note, rabbit hole. So here's Paul's viewpoint of how he thinks about the whole story of history, the whole story of the Bible here. And we'll talk more about this next week because we're not going to have time to talk about it in depth. But we talked earlier about what Paul and the biblical authors mean by the language of apocalypse. Here's part of it. Heaven and earth are united, overlapping realities in the biblical story right from page 1. I mean, heaven and earth are united. God's space is man's space. God has created out of his space a space for man to dwell. However, humanity has alienated itself from the heavenly dimension, and we certainly haven't pushed God out of his world. It's good. It's good. It's just that we become blind. We're in the dark, so to speak. Right? Like, we didn't push God out. Like, we were the ones pushed out so that we might not live forever in death and corruption. So we're in the dark. And so the apocalypse, the revelation, is what Paul, is explaining here. And it's a revelation that he had himself on the road to Damascus, which is, oh my goodness, heaven and earth are united in a way in Jesus that I didn't have a framework for before, but now I do. And he just prayed, didn't he, that y'all would keep having your awareness heightened to the apocalyptic reality. Pray that God would give you a spirit of wisdom and apocalypse. So we've got this heaven and earth dimension here, but now we have the current age and the age to come, which is also relevant to how and when Jesus is ruling. And so we have a drawing here. Yeah. So you have this age and the age to come. And I stole all this. This is not original with me by any means. You have this age. This is all Bible Project stuff. This age, and that stuff's in that age, and then the age to come. And you have this overlapping here. And I found this helpful. But Paul just identified these two time periods. And when we are living in, what we are living in, according to Paul, he calls it this age. And this age has evil, sin, death, slavery, violence, curse, all that stuff, right? Okay, so then you have the age to come, as the Bible talks about. And in the age to come is justice, love, life, freedom, peace, shalom, blessing. And then there's these transition periods here. And so this isn't a new idea. This is a biblical idea. And we don't have time. So we're going to get into this more next week. I can't jump into this yet because we just simply don't have time. But this is where Paul's going with this age and the age to come. Where does Jesus have all rule and authority? Everywhere. Everywhere. Even in me. I don't finish this lesson without his willing it, right? Every name that is named. And there will come a time where every name, every tongue, every knee will confess. There will be a revelation for everyone at some point. Oh, that's who he is. And some may even still reject him at that point. But there will come a time where every knee bows and every tongue confesses he is Lord, because He is Lord of this age and the age to come.
Amen.
This is a revelation that you should never stop exploring in your life. It's a revelation that you will spend all eternity, by the grace of God, exploring the beauties and the richness of His glory, His weight. Any other thoughts? We're not going to jump into that. Don't ask me about this. We'll talk about it in depth next week, okay? Rick?
Those circles should overlap.
There you go. I'll just take you through the whole thing. Yeah, this is what we're going to talk about next week. There you go. All right. Any other thoughts? Questions?
I don't have a question, but it's just comforting. We can't possibly fathom all of this.
Mm.
But, I mean, well, I don't want to say our word, because but it's to believe, and all of these things are imparted to us because of Him. There is nothing I can do to bring this about for myself.
Mm.
And there's some comfort in it, because there's some striving you can let go of, and it's just beautiful.
It is. He's the vine, we're the branches.
It's all Him.
Yes. And the beauty, part of the beauty of it is that God's plan is to use you, right? And to use me as a branch to bring about new heaven and new earth, to bring about new creation. Unreal.
And He doesn't need us.
And He doesn't need us. He wants us. Right. Anything else? Yeah, Christy.
Not only does He not need us, He wants us, and He's teaching us like we're 10 months old, not touch the fire. He's doing those things like we teach our children. He's trying to teach us how to be righteous and holy the entire time. He doesn't have to, but He wants to.
And He knows we'll keep touching the fire and touching the fire and touching the fire. So He basically becomes the fire so that He can do away with the fire. Right? Yeah. What else? Other thoughts on what Paul has just revealed? The apocalypse Paul has given you so far. Thoughts on it? Amanda, Scott, hi.
I was just thinking about what Leslie just said about striving. Because I think that we forget that or I do at least, forget that I am not of the original chosen people. I am a Gentile. And I think for them, like, they knew there was nothing that they could do to become a part of the family of God without His power. I think sometimes we forget that because, I've grown up in church my whole life, and I am a chosen one, and I believe that, but I think sometimes because I haven't lived outside of, in the way that they did, I was
Right.
welcomed in the way that they did. I think this is comforting for that reason too, because for them, this was, they had no chance of being in the family of God until Jesus. And I don't know, I think maybe that was a lot more clear for them sometimes. Maybe not, but-
Maybe so, yeah. Like we sing the song, "We are the chosen one." And yeah, we get a little haughty maybe.
We do a lot of striving, and we do a lot of like, I want to do this right, I want to, get everything right, and rely on ourselves a lot.
Yes. There's definitely a humility in accepting the gospel. There's got to be a humility in. We have a lot of pride, and we like to hold on to that control. That's not this. This is humility. This is dying to yourself. And listen, there's some of you, I'm sure, in a room this size, there's some of you, you don't want to believe this. You're scared of it. Maybe you're hesitant. You're holding out because of a lot of reasons that I battled myself. This is over the top, and it seems wild, and it seems bizarre. It seems other. That's because it is. He is other.
Amen.
You can't know this until you die to yourself. Like, if this isn't clicking with you, there's some spelunking you need to do. You've stopped at a cave, and if this is like, you've stopped somewhere, and God is calling you deeper. How do you read this and not just sit in awe of the Bible for one, but primarily the one who gave us these words? How do you not sit in awe of the Spirit himself who's at work in your life and in our midst at this very moment? The Bible is absolutely incredible. If you're not spending time with it, if you're not spending time with him and his word, it's not going to mean very much to you. If the only Bible you're getting is on Sunday mornings, you're taking a multivitamin and eating Coke and M&Ms and expecting to be healthy, right? That's what you're doing. If you're not sitting with it and letting it wash over you, you're neglecting the Spirit. You're not allowing the Spirit to work in your life. It's incredible. Yeah, James.
Go a week without talking to your wife and see what kind of relationship you have.
Right.
Is that why you're not sitting there?
Jay calling them out. All right, go get your donut. We love y'all. See ya.